All right, so I've been thinking about this concept of detachment a lot lately, and it seems to me that detachment from the material world and this reality, I know that might sound kind of like crazy to some people, like, why would you want to detach from reality? But hear me out. Detachment from the material world and being obsessed with like material success of any sort, whether it's money, relationships, objects, whatever, that actually is not that important and doesn't matter that much. Sure, I'd want to try in my life and try to do the things I want to do, but being so obsessed in this temporary material reality we're in, where that takes over everything in your mind, and that's where your happiness weighs on, how successful I am, what do I have. I think I'm thinking the real picture is to detach from that, and it doesn't really matter what the outcome is or what the results are you get from whatever you're trying in life. You just try to do what you want to do in life, and be around the people you want to be around, and have fun, and love other people, because really we make it in our heads this temporary reality, right? It's like, how many humans have been born and died before you? Like, I don't know, hundreds of billions or whatever it is, trillion or more, I don't know. That temporary cycle keeps repeating over and over with all these lives, and we know it. We know it. We've seen it. It's super familiar. It's like the most common story ever: birth, life, death. You know, the most common biological story. I'm sure each life might have its own accomplishments, or inventions, or whatever things that they've done, but ultimately biologically it's the same story, right? It's like, you're born, you live very temporarily, and then you die. um to think as humans, like, what's going on in my little human mind and my reality is like so important, and it's like the most important thing ever. I mean, I think all life forms on the planet probably believe that. I mean, an ant probably believes in its day to day, what it's doing is ultra important, and it's just trying to keep doing it and escape death, which isn't far off from us, really. So for us to go in our reality, like, oh my god, this reality and this life I'm in right now is the most hugest and most important thing, or whatever. Maybe it's a survival mechanism, but for me it's like detaching from that reality and going like, oh, this material reality is super temporary. It doesn't actually matter how much I can absorb or how much material I can possess. It's more like the time I spent and how I spent it and how I felt, and people around me and whatever, how they felt. It's more about that. It really makes me think about it, like, put it in full perspective, that, like, yeah, for me, detachment from this is just like a healthier way to do it. It's probably the real way. It's like the only realistic way. Otherwise you're just in this temporary thing we're in. You're like, this is it. I need to accumulate and, like, do all this whatever. And if that's what you want, that's cool. I just think there's a deeper thread than this one temporary life I'm living right now. And the more I can look at it that way, the more I can realize, like, oh shit, like, there's far more out there. Like, I mean, death, yeah, back to the death thing. Like, yeah, it's a bummer. There's a lot of, we've all had close people, friends, relatives, whatever, that have passed, and we make it a huge thing in our mind, and it's like destroys us. It's super hard. Easier said than done to handle it like in a super, you know, balanced, happy manner, because it appears such a bummer. But I mean, we all know that's the way of life, and we've known that forever, and it's happened hundreds of billions or however many times before us, and we still make it such a negative thing because we're so attached to our own little reality. It's like we make our little reality so huge and important that's like we're willing, like we get so bummed out about things. We're also willing to destroy the lives of others to make our own personal reality so much better. I mean, we see it with leaders all the time, leaders of countries, companies, yeah, who knows, like people around you. People are so obsessed with their life and their reality and their material, they're willing to, you know, not give a shit about other things. It's like all about, and so it's all about themselves and whatever. So, you know, it really is something I think that's valuable to realize, because, I mean, ultimately you look at it now, AI is out now, right? And I think a lot of people are underestimating it. And I think it's way crazier than most people think. I think, you know, GPT came out, months later GPT-4 came out. It's way better than the first one. What's GPT-5 going to be like? I mean, this AI is eventually, people are underestimating it. I think it's, you know, it's a bunch of crazy coding that's going to keep evolving to the point where it can basically do most things humans can do. And, you know, we're obsessed with our phones already. I mean, what happens when you have an assistant you wake up to that has your whole agenda, that can read your emotions while it talks to you, tell you the perfect things, give you advice, keep your whole life in order, write everything you need to do, your emails or whatever for you. I mean, we can't even put ourselves, we're obsessed with the smartphone. No one's going back after they get a smartphone. It's only smartphone forever from there on out. What happens when the AI assistant is like so smart and advanced that you're like, talking to this thing is more valuable than talking to most of my friends, because this thing has far more insight and a lot more information and good advice it can give me, and it can pick up on. You know, that thing's gonna be taking over, in my opinion, sooner than we all think. It's gonna change our lifestyles, and people are gonna be shocked within their lifetime, like, wow, like there's gonna be a huge shift, huge changes in the world, I believe. And you know, it's like we think we're so important, but just think of that. When AI gets that far, I mean, we're gonna be like ants compared to it, right? Like it's gonna be so much smarter and so much more capable than any human. It's probably gonna innovate things that we are limited. We have limited brain capacity. If AI can tap into everything and be much smarter about it and problem solve way faster, like problem solve problems that would take us 10 years in, like, you know, months, and not only do that, solve like 1,000 of those problems. I mean, how important is our material reality going to be anyway? You know, we're going to hit a cap as humans, a limit, and if AI is coming, it's going to take us well beyond that. So our material reality as we see it, the little competitive game we play and everyone trying to get ahead and whatever, and more material and more freedom to go do anything anywhere. I mean, that, like, we're gonna be the, you know, we're gonna be second-rate consciousness in a way eventually. I think sooner than later. Some people might argue, and our little thoughts and hopes and dreams are probably gonna, you know, be kind of secondary to what this, like, new wave thing can do and think about and solve. So yeah, I really, for me, it's like detaching to this from this reality is making so much more and more sense. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about just give up on reality. But I am talking about shifting your perspective and consciousness from a place of, like, oh, I'm so caught up in my own little life and world and what I want and my accomplishments, and I want to be the big genius or whatever. I think there's coming a day pretty soon where you just aren't going to be the big genius. There's going to be things, technologies taking over that is like, we're like pugs, little dogs running around, like, having fun, trying to do our little, human thing. And yeah, it's gonna make sense to just detach from your material reality and just start to enjoy the limited time you have here, and wherever else reality is going after this life, if you believe in an afterlife or whatnot. So yeah, just some thoughts. Thanks for listening.